Well, how many of you have been stuck behind someone who has plastered the entire back of their car with bumper stickers? Yep. And I'm not going to judge. Maybe you're that person. And that's fine. That's fine. There's so many things, to say in the world that you don't always have time to say them. And it's like whenever I see those cars, I think they just have so much to say. There's barely room to contain all their opinions. And I have to admit, I'm always fascinated to hear what they say. I will actually pull up way closer than I should at a stoplight just to read somebody's bumper sticker. I'm guilty of it. I'm just curious. I just wonder, what are they trying to say? And then I also wonder, as I'm pulling up, how many bumper sticker related accidents have there been, that have gone unreported? I'm sure nobody's going to say that. Well, why did you rear end that person? Well, I was trying to read their bumper sticker. And some of them you can recognize from a ways away. Political parties are pretty easy. Candidates. Have you seen that one that says coexist with all those religious symbols? Yeah, like the cross, the Star of David, the Hindu symbol. And it's so popular, I've even seen a spin-off of it. I saw it the other day, and it looked like it, but it said capitalist. And it had, it was like a C was like a cent, and there was $1 for the S, and I thought, that's kind of funny. And then I've seen plenty of Christian fishes around, a variety of expressions. I've seen, you've probably seen the Christian fish with the legs, I guess a stab at those who don't believe in evolution. And then I've seen one of the Christian fish, eating the Darwin fish, some people call it. I've seen that one. And then the other day, I saw one, it was a dinosaur eating both of the fish. And so I'm guessing they just thought that sticker war had just gotten it to the point of ridiculous. And I've seen more than a few OSU and OU stickers out there. And I am convinced that during football season, there is not a more divisive bumper sticker out there. Much more so than political parties or religious beliefs, for sure. And some of these bumper stickers, they're simply funny and clever and appealing to all people. But some of them try and express a deeply held belief, a deep conviction in 6 words or less. They want to show you that they are right about something. It's all about being right. And I think they can almost be dangerous because they try and encapsulate what can be a complex problem or idea and not leave any room at all for dialogue or conversation or relationship. It's basically, I'm right and you're not. Like, love it or leave it. Have you seen that one with the American flag? Or on the other side, I'm already against the next war. Or it's a child, not a choice. Or pro-choice, pro-women. Deeply charged feelings and issues expressed in less than 6 words without any explanation for dialogue or relationship. There was a story even last year about a pastor who was offended by the Oklahoma license plate. Did anybody else read this story? And he said that the Native American archer statue on the license plate was of a sacred bow, and that was against his Christian beliefs. It was apparently offensive to him to have that religious symbolism in such a sacred place as his bumper. He didn't win, by the way. He didn't win that suit. And we see in the gospel reading today that the Pharisees are trying to get Jesus to commit to his side. They want to see if he has the right answer for them. Right? They're trying to trick him and say, by whose authority are you doing these things? Are you with us or are you against us? Your ministry, in essence, is what they're saying, does not fit into our understanding of our ministry. You're teaching, your understanding of God is not how we see God. And that's why they ask, by what authority are you doing these things? And Jesus knows this. We get, kind of the tone. You don't always get to hear the tone, but I think, from the way Jesus responds, we get a picture that they're not seeking knowledge, right? They just want to see if Jesus has the right answer for them because they're the authorities. To which Jesus plays at their game, just to play at their game for a little bit. And he says, well, tell me then, did the baptism of John come from heaven or of human origin? He knows that that's not really going to invite dialogue. He just wants to prove that they are just trying to be right. They're all about being right. Just as they are trying to trap Jesus to get him to say something that would be considered blasphemous, Jesus turns the table on them and makes them choose. And what we see is that they try and do right by everyone. Right? They say, well, if we say this, then Jesus is going to say, well, then why didn't you believe? And if we say the other, then, if we say it was just of human origin, then the crowds will get upset because they consider him a prophet. So they just go with the political right answer and they say, well, we don't know. He says, well, then I'm not gonna talk to you anymore then. And so instead of seeking understanding, they're seeking only to be right, which is kind of a big difference. It sounds like the same thing, but there's a huge difference. You can be right in many different ways and still not understand. Sometimes the majority has the right just by numbers. They might not even be doing the right thing, but by just being the majority, you can be in the right. Or sometimes people claim to be right by going to the right church. And then some people are right because they hold all the power. They're the authority. And others hold on to the right even on the other end. They say, well, the powers are holding me back. To be right is to make a judgment of, are you with us or are you against us? It both makes us feel powerful and it makes us feel like we are in control. And I would say the simpler, the better. Like a bumper sticker. The simpler we can make it, the simpler we can make it for people to be right. The easier time we have of convincing others to come over to our side. And the beauty about being right is once you're right, you don't have to be confused by the facts. It's just a great thing. And you might even be able to write your own catchy slogan that fits on the back of a car. However, when you seek understanding, when you seek true understanding, you waive your right to be right. You have to acknowledge that you could be wrong. The religious leaders, they wanted to see if Jesus could give them the right answer. And Jesus, using their own game, basically, wanted to see if they could step out of the need to be right and step into the invitation to know Jesus and to be known. Not just to understand in their mind, but enter into a relationship. Jesus didn't care about being right. Jesus invited them in a subtle way, though, to think about the way they were thinking. I think so often in life we want to know the right answer so bad that we miss the point of the question. Questions do not always get simple answers. And in fact, they rarely do. We want them to. We want the simplicity and security that simple answers bring. It's easier just to pick a side, to to pick a political party, a news source, or an ideal, and to just stick with it. If you know you have the answer, you don't have to think about it anymore. You can just put it on a shelf and move on. But Jesus, in this move, he refuses to be put on the shelf. He refuses to just be an answer to a question. Just when the answer seems obvious with Jesus, he turns it entirely around. And just when the answer seems so complicated, he points to a child and says, have faith like a child. It's not about information. It's about invitation. The elders and the chief priests, they only wanted to know about Jesus. They didn't really want to get to know Jesus, and for good reason. Because it's much easier to simplify answers about Jesus than to live with continuing questions and to seek a relationship with Jesus. Much easier to believe through simple information versus invitation. It's much easier to polarize ourselves and stand behind a slogan or an ideal than to engage in serious discussion with someone, or open ourselves up for critique, or follow Jesus to the unknown paths that he might lead us on, or to admit that we might be wrong. When Jesus speaks, it's always with the point of continuing conversation and dialogue. The answers to life are not laid out in 6 words or less. Even when Jesus seems to be trying to trick the leaders, it's for the purpose of continuing relationship. The conversation could have ended if he would have answered their question. Now there's this question that is left unanswered, and they're stuck wrestling with the words he said. But relationships, as we know, are harder to deal with than answers and ideals and laws. Are they not? Relationships are messy and they're complicated. Law and order, and ideals, they motivate us, they make us sure. But relationships, they're complicated. They give and take and they're always changing. I was thinking about this with our pets even, with an animal. My wife and I, we recently, well, not too recently now, but a few months back, we adopted 2 dogs from the Oklahoma City pound. We went to get 1 and we ended up with 2, It was a 2-for-1 special. So, yeah, that was the cheap part. And they're both about 1.5 years old, and they're pretty crazy, but we just love them. They're just so much fun. But they also drive us a little crazy. When we came home from the pound, we didn't have anything, so we went to Petco, like 2 proud parents, and we just bought everything that they needed, new beds, treats, bowls, leashes. And within the first 3 days, they had systematically removed all the stuffing from their beds. They'd chewed through their leashes. They turned their bowls upside down and chewed through it, like the rubber. And then they went to the bathroom where and when they felt like it, of course. And then they just were so excited, they almost knocked us over all the time from jumping. But we still love these dogs. And they bring all sorts of happiness to our lives. And we can't imagine our lives without them now. And these are just dogs. And so I was thinking about this. I'm like, I have this relationship with this animal, in which, it's complicated. And yet they've changed our relationship as well. And so I was thinking, I said, if a relationship with an animal can be this complicated, certainly our relationship with fellow human beings and the Son of God deserve a little more time and energy than just, trying to get simple answers. What Jesus wants is not so much to know everything about him, but wants us to have a relationship with him. That's what he was trying to do with the religious leaders. Yes, we want to seek to understand who God is. I'm not saying we don't want to do that. We want to study, but it's for the sake of the relationship. Our relationship with God isn't for the purpose of writing laws or writing ideals or writing slogans or plastering things in the back of our car. It's for the sake of the relationship itself. And when we seek God only for answers, we are likely to be disappointed. Because when we follow Jesus, we're not following into certainty of answers. We are following into a relationship of wonder. And the wonder of it is that when we follow Jesus, we can bring our whole lives before Him and discover who we are. And He will not turn us into something that we are not. He is not interested in turning us into a clone of, religious robots. When we seek understanding over the desire to be right, we are placing our trust in Christ above our ideals, above those things that we think Christ has set in place, has set in stone. Because it's the relationship that is more important, even if it's complicated, even if there's not a 6-word answer for it. You don't have to be right. You don't have to have the right answers. And in fact, I would say if you think you do, you don't. And I don't. Our faith is bigger than being right. It's bigger than having the right answer. It's a faith that trusts in the goodness of God and seeks to understand that goodness. The invitation to follow Jesus is more important than the information and being right. And it's just too bad that wouldn't fit on a bumper sticker. Amen.